Hey everyone, welcome back to another tutorial in Pixlr. And this one is I found it fun, just trying to simulate perspective. So playing around with two photos and recreating what we found here online, which is a funky photo of these two guys, one guy running up a wall. So we've got our own version of it. Here is a few students of ours that volunteered to help out and sort of recreated the same effect. And so I'd like to take you through the process and show you how we made this. And we're going to use Pixlr, a little bit of Polar, and also we're going to use Canva. So 3 pieces of software, and I'll take you through. So here's what our poster turned out like. And here's the full version of it. So it's exploration of graphic design and photos. So I'm going to take you to the Google Classroom, which is, it's got all of the links here. So if you're in my class, please right click on the Kayden.png. So right click, open link in a new tab, and direct yourself to that tab. And there won't be a preview because it's an image with a transparent background. So it is the Kayden image without a background. So I'm going to click download, and I'm going to go back to the classroom, and I'm going to download this Sven JPEG. So I'm going to open it to show you what it looks like. I'm going to go back, and it's important that you right click, open it in a new tab, go to the tab, and download the original source. If you don't download the original source and you just right click and save, it'll give you the thumbnail image from Google Images. So it'll be smaller, the quality won't be as high. So I like to click download, and it goes to my downloads folder. So what we're doing here, okay, there's my preview. What we're doing here is I'm going to direct you to my folders. We took 2 photos. Here's the one photo. So this is the student that was climbing the wall. And then we cut out the background and photo impose it onto that photo. So it's just 2 pictures and kind of playing with the idea of perspective. So now that I've got those downloaded, I'm going to go into Pixlr. I'm using Google Chrome as my web browser, and I'm going to type in Pixlr in the address up here, and scroll down. And I like using Pixlr Editor. So launch the web app. Another thing I didn't mention is the links that I just downloaded, I will make those available in the YouTube channel. That way anyone else can follow and try this out. So I'm going to open an image from my computer. And here I need to access the photo of Sven. So I want Sven. So the one of the student laying down with his feet up. So if it comes in upside down like this, I would go to Image, Rotate Canvas, and 90 degrees clockwise. And zoom out a little bit, Control minus. You can use the scroll wheel on your mouse to zoom in and out. And I'm going to just automatically bring in Kayden because his picture was pre-cut. So I have a PNG image. I'm going to go under Layer, Open Image as Layer, and find my Kayden PNG. There he is in my downloads. Give it a moment. Use your move tool, and he's floating around here. So I'm going to bring him up, go over to Edit, Free Transform. You got these little bounding box. Now, if I go any corner, I can hold Shift and I can scale him up or down. But what I really want to do here is rotate. So if I go just outside of the bounding box, I'm going to start rotating him and then go to the middle, move him around. Take a moment to place him walking up a wall. Maybe scale down just a hair. Once you're happy, hit enter. You can still move him because he is a separate layer. I'm going to name it. I'm going to call this one Caden. And the background, you could leave it background, but I will name it as well. And it's Sven. So this guy, I'm going to position him here. I'm happy with that. The next step is I will add a new layer in between Sven and Caden. Add a new layer. I'm going to name it Shadow. I'll drag this over so it's easier to view on the screen. And shadow, what I do is I use the toggle layer settings. I'm going to drag that opacity down to 29 or 30, 31. I can also edit it by typing in 30. And I also want a layer mode of multiply. So I'm going to direct you over to the brush, select the brush, click on the brush size. I'm going to test 200 would be okay. I'm going to go to about 251 here, and you can experiment with this brush sizes. Make sure that it's got a softened edge so it simulates a real shadow. I'm going to just drag that in, and notice how it's picking up on the texture of the wall, and I just want to try and simulate the shadow. And I know it's up against the wall because where this student is sitting, you can see the shadow of his legs up against that concrete wall. So I know that the light's coming from his back and casting a shadow underneath. And I'm also looking at how dark the shadow is here, because that is the actual shadow, and trying to recreate something that looks as realistic as I possibly can. So under the hand, under his shoe, I'm going to add a second layer now, and I'm going to call this Shadow 2. And in Shadow 2, I'm just going to add a little extra black because the shadows won't be consistent throughout. There'll be some areas that are darker, some that are lighter, so you'll see me do those edits. So shadow number 2, still same concept. Use the brush with black. I'm going to use a smaller brush. I'll take 150 pixels is going to work for me. And I'm just going to click and drag, and I've got 100% black right now, but I will turn down the opacity. So a little bit there, a little bit on his top foot. I'll zoom in, Control plus, space bar to move around, drag that over. So there's a bit of black and there's a bit of black. And I'm going to adjust my opacity. 41, 40 seems to work well for me. And then I'll use my eraser with a much larger diameter and just click around in the Shadow 2 layer to soften up the edges. So here, because shadows are never exactly the same everywhere. So it's just a bit darker there. And I could do the same thing under the other shadow. I can soften it. And then in fact, the shadow would be a little skinnier by his leg there. Zoom out. And maybe a little less there. And I'm using the eraser right now just with a brush that is 440 pixels in diameter and its feathered edge. I'm happy with that. At this point, I would save it, File, Save, and just save it as a JPEG. If you want to go back and edit this and have a working file with layers, then you could save it as a PXD. But here I will name this Climbing Wall Demo. JPEG quality, I left it at 80. You could increase it if you'd like. Click OK. I'm going to put it on my desktop. Climbing Wall Demo, save. Good. Polar is an online photo editor where you can add filters, adjust your colors, and it's quite easy to use. And it is free to use. They do have a pro version which offers more tools, and I yet have to explore everything that's available. But you can use the free version to finish up what we're doing. So to access Polar, open a new tab, go to Polar. It's P-O-L-A-R-R. So this is the website, and you can go to Online Photo Editor Polar Launch. And so I want to open a photo, and I'm using the Express version. There's a Pro version as well, which is a little different. And if you are in the Pro version, you can edit that. You can change it from settings. And so if I go over here and I go to settings, you have a Pro and an Express version. So I'm using Express. Open photo. I know it's on my desktop. And Climbing Wall Demo was the one. Open. Great. Now I've got filters here. So I'm going to access my filters. You can access many different tools using the plus at the bottom. And then you got filters. You got all the basic tools here. If you go to all, it adds more of the tools that you have access to. But we only need basic. I'm going to close that. Filters, click on M1 and lower the opacity, well, not the opacity, but the intensity, about 75. Go to color and saturation. I just increased the saturation about 10. Vibrance, same thing, just slightly up to about 9. The tint, this is all subjective. You can play around with the colors, whatever looks best to you. I'll leave that at 0. And the temperature, you can either make it cool or warm. So I like the warm feeling with the oranges. About 11 seems to work well. And that's it. I'm going to save the photo. I've got it set to JPEG best, and it's called climbingwalldemo.jpg. I'm going to save that. and it will automatically save to your downloads. Here's my preview. Looks great. So if you didn't want text and you just wanted the image, that's all you would need to do. It would be done. But if I want to include text and make a poster out of this, then I would go to my final step and open up my third application, which is called Canva. These are all open source online software. Create a design. I'm going to use custom dimensions. Make sure to use inches, and I will make it 11 by 17, and I'll click design. Give it a moment because it is a full-size print poster. Click on uploads. I'm going to upload my design or my image. So go to your downloads. Find the picture you just edited from Polar. It's called Climbing Wall Demo. Open it. It'll take a moment to load inside of your images on the left panel. I select that image, it just drops it in. And I don't need to hold shift or anything. I just go to the corners, expand the image to fill that frame. I'm going to lay it out a little bit different. And then to include the text, what I did is I clicked on text, scroll down until you find smooth, cold, and tasty. It's coming up here. Oh, here it is. Cold, smooth, and tasty. That is the font style that was used. I'll drag that around. I used a few copies of it. So to copy it, you can click on it, click copy. So you've got a duplicate copy of it. This one, I'm going to type in exploration. You can expand it, although it expands, it's kind of broken up here. So I need to ungroup that. Click outside, click back into exploration, and it gives you those little half circles. So now I can expand that window. Click outside of it, and I want to just simply move exploration. I'm going to click on that Brewing Angelo and delete it and start to lay out my poster here. So click on it. I'm going to rotate that vertical, line it up with the top of his hat. And right now my text is set as 47.5. And I will use this text box. I'm going to copy it one more time. Drag it over. I'm only going to type in of and increase the size of it to about 48. Drag this in the corner here. Ungroup that because I do not want that little text box down there. Delete it. And the last step is to type in graphic design. On the bottom, I'm going to arrange it about there. If I ungroup it again, I can separate that little tiny text box. I'm going to drag that down there. I'm going to select the graphic design and go under spacing, adjust the line height, because I don't want the I and the P to get merged together there. So I'll just give it a little extra spacing. It's actually called leading. And adjust it where you find it fits. And what I had done was I gave credit to my two helpers here. So Caden and Sven. I'm giving them a little bit of credit, but it's much smaller text. And you can spend a bit of time organizing, laying out the different fonts. Here, what I like to do is give this more emphasis. So I would like it to be kind of a greenish color. I'm going to go over to the new, find the green, maybe more on the bluish shade. Something close to match that wall and to unify with the wall. Playing around with contrast, some typography. So feel free to do some different text, different example, but that is the entire process. The final step is to download it, and you can use a PDF or a JPEG to share it. And so if you're in my classroom, please share a JPEG, download it, and save a JPEG of your poster and post it to our Google Classroom. I'll show you the final result, and I appreciate you following these steps. Here it is. Thanks. We'll see you next time.